Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Transportation. We have a busy day. This will be an executive session on hopefully the balance of our bills. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome a few of our replacements today. For Eric Johnson, we have Representative Gerard. We have for Representative Koger, Representative Leon. And for Representative St. Clair, we have Representative Newell. Welcome to Transportation. How are you? So with that being said, if I can have Representative Leon lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much for that. And without further ado, I'm going to open up the executive session on House Bill 212, allowing a 180-day operation waiver when a motor vehicle fails an emission control test. Chair recognizes Representative Gorski for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion of retain on HB 212.
Motion is retained. Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Hill. Care to speak to your motion, sir?
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, the prime sponsor with this particular bill feels like there's still some modifications that can be made to make it a little bit better and would like a little bit more time. And so based on that, I think we should retain it to see if those adjustments can be made to make it better.
Fair enough. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is to retain House Bill 212.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foote,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Giason,
Yes.
sorry, Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Bayou,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Comandon,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16-0.
Okay, so our motion of retain is adopted 16-0. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 212. We'll go in order for now, so give us a couple of minutes and we'll go into House Bill 249. Okay, I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 249, allowing bicyclists to treat stop signs as yield signs and stop lights as stop signs. Chair recognizes Representative Pataro for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on HB 249.
Motion is expedient to legislate. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hamblin. Would you care to speak to your motion, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Briefly, one of the things that stuck out during the hearings for this one is that, to our knowledge and to everybody's knowledge who spoke, nobody's ever been cited for this kind of behavior. Apparently, it's never happened. So, all of a sudden, us allowing it could have vast unintended consequences for the motoring public. So that's why I am ITL.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this was my bill, I'm certainly disappointed to hear that response to it. I think the data dramatically supports that the closest thing to unintended consequences is a better flow of traffic. It improves safety. it makes traffic flow better. I'm disappointed to hear that the committee feels that that data is insufficient and inaccurate.
Fair enough. Anybody else from the committee? Well, seeing none. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is inexpedient to legislate on House Bill 249.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foot.
Yes.
Representative Vitaro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Giason.
No.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
No.
Representative Newell.
No.
Representative Fox.
No.
Representative Bayou.
No.
Representative Gerard.
No.
Representative London.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
No.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes. Oh, okay. I missed the other. Well, I missed the other. Okay, our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate on House Bill 249 is adopted 9-7. Obviously, that'll be regular calendar. I will close the executive session on this.
Just,
Will there be a minority report?
there will be a minority report and there will be a debate.
And I suspect it'll be from Miller to complete. So, minutes are reset, please, and we'll go into 298.
I know. Still. If it hadn't paid more attention, I could have tied it.
Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on House Bill 298 FN, creating an exception to the prohibition on removing VIN tags from vehicle manufacturer prior to 1981, where removal is reasonably necessary for repair or restoration. Chair recognizes Representative Hamlin for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to vote that we retain this bill.
Thank you, sir. Did you want to speak to it?
So, on the face of it, this is a good idea for.
Sorry about that. Let me back you up.
Okay.
I'm still a little caffeine jitters here. Can I get a second? The motion is to retain. Seconded by Representative Giason. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So on the face of it, this bill provides a good service to repair shops, restoration shops. However, with the current state laws in New Hampshire, there is some work that has to be done on this bill as far as allowing the fact that we can take the VIN tag off and put it back on again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Sykes?
Realize I left it on. Thank you. Good thing I was sitting here quietly.
That's a change.
So now, and you realize what you just did would made it really hard for me to be quiet. Actually, my position would be that we should ITL this bill. It has enough holes in it that I'm not sure that we can fix it even with the retention effort. But in view of that motion, I will support the retained motion. We'll give it a college try, but I'm not optimistic.
Thank you, Representative Sykes. And I do agree with you. The way it's currently written, I couldn't support it either. we need to, in my opinion, keep the integrity of the VIN tags, which is the whole reason for having them. So I think it is worth taking a look at, so I'm hoping we can move on with a retain. And why is my phone ringing? So, you know, it was on silent and the volume was all the way down. That being said, anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion on 298 is to retain.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Geisen,
Yes.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Plamondon,
No.
and Representative Miller,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes?
Okay. It's 15-1.
Okay, our recommendation to retain is adopted 15-1. I will close the executive session on House Bill 298. And we will move into House Bill 411 in a few minutes. Okay, I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 411 FN relative to making the use of mobile electronic device, the use of a mobile electronic device while driving a secondary offense. Chair recognizes Representative Crawford for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My motion is ITL on House Bill 411 FN.
The motion is inexpedient to legislate. Do we have a second?
second.
Representative by, seconded by Representative Sykes. Here to speak to your motion, Representative Crawford.
To me, a secondary offense would be actually kind of foolish because, let's face it, if someone gets stopped for a headlight out or even for speeding, if I'm using my phone at the same time and I know I'm being stopped, I'm certainly going to throw my phone someplace else because I don't want the police officer to know that I was texting while I was speeding. So the whole reason for having the hands-free law is to be able to see someone using this and to be able to stop them on a primary offense. So that's why I recommend ITL on this bill.
Anybody else? Representative Sykes?
Yes, and one thing that's really important for us to remember, and I appreciate the support for an ITL motion, that it is documentable that since this bill was passed, I think maybe more than a decade ago, there have been demonstrably positive results in terms of fewer deaths or crashes from distracted driving. And so I think that's an important tool to keep in the Department of Safety's toolbox and help protect people and children who are otherwise blameless while they drive down the road from people who do not follow the law.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? With this, I shouldn't jinx it. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is inexpedient to legislate on House Bill, why am I losing my place? 411.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Geisen. Why do I keep saying that? Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Plamondon,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
Consent.
16-0 and consent.
Okay, our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate is adopted. 16-0. I did hear consent. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, consent that goes. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 411. 414 will be up next. Okay, I'm going to open up the executive session on House Bill 414, prohibiting the division of motor vehicles from suspending a license on the basis of debt owed to a private entity relating to the towing or storing of a motor vehicle. Chair recognizes Representative Gorski for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My motion for HB 414 is ITL.
Motion is inexpedient to legislate. Is there a second? That's, I heard Representative Foot first. Thank you, sir. Representative, care to speak to your motion?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding 414, we had testimony from people who said how they've been impacted, but I actually had a chance to talk to some towing companies and kind of wanted to get their view on things. And, their view is, first of all, this is kind of like the very, 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 did I say very enough? Last resort that they kind of go to in order to try to recoup some of the expenses for the towing and storing. What they all told me was, we try to work with the person. Their goal is not trying to take their license away from them, but their goal is to try to work with the person to try to make something equitable so they could get their vehicle, because the longer they keep it, the longer it's costing them. So they really felt this, from when I talked to them, this was kind of something that was a necessary tool, but again, they use it the very last resort. And based on getting that information, I felt this bill probably should be ITL'd.
Thank you, sir. Representative Sykes.
Yeah, so I would be opposed to this ITL motion because we are trying really hard, I think, as a legislature to examine the circumstances under which a person loses the privilege to drive. And we are trying really hard to make sure that those privileges are suspended or lost based on a moving violation versus an actual a fine problem. This, to me, falls under that kind of category where persons may lose their driving privileges because they have been unable to pay a bill owed to a private company or owed to for a fine of some sort, and that vehicles get towed for lots of reasons, many of which do not involve moving violations at all. So it's a in my mind a slippery slope that we have fallen into, and I think that we should take corrective measures where appropriate.
Anybody else from the committee? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To build on Representative Sykes' comments, the other thing that I would note here is, as we heard in the testimony, this debt is typically incurred by force. Most times the person having that vehicle towed does not get to choose the company that tows it or what that rate is going to be. They can't shop it around. They are subject to a contract typically between the local police department or authorities there and who they call for the towing. And so, as we've talked about in various other bills in this committee, being forced into a contract with a private entity by the government, and as a result of that, losing your license, which for most of us means losing your ability to work, seems especially unfair. And yeah, I would also add that I have got the email from the towing companies as well, I feel like it probably would have behooved them to show up and testify if they wanted to have that opinion felt more broadly by the committee rather than having it sort of thrown in last minute. Thank you.
Anybody else? Actually, I'll just chime in a little bit. Don't fall out of your chair, but I actually agree with you. In the fact that I originally was looking at a retain on this only because I believe there are other things in the statute that could be addressed. I don't think this bill does it as written, in having conversations about germaneness and the possibility of working on it without this bill. We can do that for something introduced freestanding next year. So for that, I'm not going to support this, but I do agree with you that I think the statute with the forced or being compelled to use certain companies for the towing probably needs to be looked at. So again, with that, I think future work is good. I don't think we need this particular language. I'll be supporting the ITL. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. Motion is inexpedient to legislate.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Patero,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Geisel,
No.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
No.
Representative Newell,
No.
Representative Fox. No. Representative Ayu,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Plamondon,
No.
Representative Miller,
No.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
Eight to eight.
The mo- The motion of inexpedient to legislate fails, 8-8. Is there another motion? Our options being in OTP or retain.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion of ought to pass. For all the previous stated reasons, I don't need to speak to it again.
Okay, motion is ought to pass. Is there a second? Representative Miller, do we need any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. Excuse me.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
No.
clerk votes no. Representative Hill,
No.
Representative Foot,
No.
Representative Patero,
No.
Representative Leon,
No.
Representative Geisen, Representative Hamlin,
No.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Ayu,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Plamondon,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
No.
8 to
This may come as a shocker. The motion of ought to pass fails 8-8. We're running out of motions. Is there one? Representative Geisen?
A motion to retain.
Excuse me. Retain's been moved, seconded by Representative Vayu. I'm sure we don't need any more, but I'll give the option. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the retain.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Patero,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Geisen,
Yes.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Plamondon,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16 to 0.
The motion to retain is adopted 16-0. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 414. We'll stay in order. Next up, 441. All right, I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 441 relative to visible motor vehicle diesel emissions and quote-unquote rolling coal. Chair recognizes Representative Guyson for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move inexpedient to legislate on House Bill 441.
Motion's inexpedient to legislate. Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Foot. Care to speak your motion, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So under current code of law, this is already illegal. This law actually does nothing. You're not allowed to modify the fuel intake, exhaust, etc., on a private vehicle to the point where it would violate the OBD and emission standards. And that is exactly what this law says, is that you're not allowed to do that. So it's already codified into law. To me, this is just it's frivolous in that it's just restating a law that already exists.
Thank you, sir. I agree completely. This is the second time we've seen this bill in 2 years, and the same argument was made last time. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Foot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add to that, and it's an EPA violation as well, so it's federally regulated. So,
Yep. Anybody else? Seeing none, the motion is inexpedient to legislate on House Bill 441. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foot.
yes.
Representative Vitaro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Guyson.
Yes.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Newell.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu.
Yes.
Representative Gerard.
Yes.
Representative Plamondon.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yes.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
Consent.
16-0. Consent.
Yep. So our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate is adopted 16-0. I heard consent. Any objection to consent? Seeing none. Consent it'll be. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 441. And a couple minutes to reset. We'll get into why not? House Bill 461. All right, let's just dive right in. I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 461 relative to the Department of Safety and Department of Motor Vehicle Training and Testing Materials. Chair recognizes Representative Gorski for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My motion is for OTP on HB 461.
Motion is out to pass. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Seconded by Representative Pitaro, and I'll take this one for you, Mr. Vice Chair. Okay, first I'll apologize for not making the public hearing on this, but I'll just explain why I filed this bill. It started when I saw that the Department of Safety had gone to the Executive Council seeking monies to spend taxpayer funds on providing all the testing materials and testing, or training materials and testing for New Hampshire driver's licenses. That just was my first issue with this whole thing. Why are the taxpayers being footing the bill for this? But then as I started digging into it, a few things happened, which just solidified why I did this and why I was glad I did this, actually. First of all, we had a rash of wrong way crashes on our interstates, and I've already had the discussion. I told them I was going to mention it, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was watching the news, and Lieutenant Storm got on TV explaining these and said, we've got three problems going on with the roads in New Hampshire right now. We have impairment, we have distraction, which we know, that's why we just took care of the secondary offense for cell phones, and we have a language problem. And it's true. Right now, the signs on our roads are all in English. We also have a statute that says that we use English in all our public documents. If we hear it all the time that we are truly here about safety reasons, and that's why I put the bill in again. It truly doesn't make sense to me that if you cannot speak English, that you drive on the roads of the state and get a driver's license and get assisted in getting that license. Just as a matter of common sense too, because I've been called xenophobe, I've been called racist, I've been seeing the emails from the week. Couldn't be anything further from the truth. Just to illustrate that this is safety and common sense. Even our federal motor carrier safety regulations currently state that a person is qualified to drive a commercial motor vehicle if he or she, quote, can read and speak the English language sufficiently to converse with the general public, to understand highway traffic signs and signals in the English language, to respond to official inquiries, and to make entries on reports and records. I didn't make this up. I didn't make this concept up. This has apparently been a common sense issue for a lot of years. If it applies for the commercial side of our driver's licenses, I don't understand why it wouldn't apply to passenger vehicles as well. To go one step further, if you look around the planet, there are a lot of countries that actually have their street signs in multiple languages. If we think it's a good idea to have people that cannot speak an ounce of English driving in this state, then perhaps we should put a bill in next year to put a separate language or languages on every street sign in New Hampshire. Then that takes this whole argument away. Again, I mentioned this is already in statute, that language is recognized as our official language in New Hampshire. And as of yesterday, by executive action, it is now the language recognized by the federal government. I'll leave it at that for now. Again, this is common sense. This has got nothing to do with racism. It's got nothing to do with xenophobia. And I really enjoyed these emails. This truly is common sense. So that being said, anybody else from the committee? Representative Pataro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to echo the last bullet point you made that one of the legal concerns I did have at the time of our hearing was that, again, the United States federal government didn't have an official language at that time. Over the past couple of weeks, our president and administration did make English the official language of this country, and that does have profound ramifications, such as something like this bill. So, satisfied. I just wanted to add that.
Anybody else from the committee? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could not disagree with you more on the reasoning, the justification, or the value that this bill brings. Citing commercial regulations and suggesting that they should apply to personal driver's licenses, non-commercial, is a red herring of absurd proportions. There are several things that apply to commercial drivers that do not apply to personal drivers. That there's a reason we have different licenses for them. Suggesting that a federal commercial license policy should apply to a regular driver's license at the state of New Hampshire level is an unreasonable, let's say, approach to the situation. Beyond that, I would dispute that the problem with people driving the wrong way on the interstate is because they can't read these signs. There are myriad indicators associated with street navigation, road navigation. It is not just the words on the sign. A stop sign is a stop sign because it is a red octagon with a white border on it. It is not a stop sign because it has the word stop written S-T-O-P in the middle of it. If any of us went to France and were driving in France or the French Caribbean islands or anywhere else where France is the native language and saw a red octagon with a white border on it that said A-R-R-E with a little hat on it, T, we would know that that is a stop sign, despite the fact that it has the word arrête written there. Canada too, they do it there. Quebec at least. Right. A one-way sign is not a one-way sign because it says one way in the middle. It is a one-way sign because it's a black sign with a white arrow pointing that direction. Do not enter. All of these signs are pictograms for the precise reason that language is not universal. Finally, I will only note that we have heard from the Department of Safety that having these multiple language tests available has in fact enabled people to safely and reasonably acquire a license to participate in our society. And while you may want everyone to speak English here in New Hampshire or in the United States, that is, quite frankly, is a xenophobic approach. It is not a reasonable expectation. Whether on a temporary or permanent basis, people are here and they will speak other languages as well. Our goal should be to meet our constituents and community where they are and help them to ensure that they have a safe environment and that they can safely participate in our society, not exclude them for the sake of a language. Thank you. Sorry, one last bit. We've already paid the money. There's no sense in throwing away something we've already paid for. You want to talk about wasting taxpayer dollars? We've already paid for this. Throwing it away at this point is a massive waste. And yeah, thank you.
Well, first of all, we've actually had somebody, as I mentioned, from Department of Safety recognize that language is a barrier. And with that, I ask you a question. Do you know how to read "Caution, black ice ahead" in Swahili? Probably not. And so I would suggest that somebody that speaks Swahili would not be able to read "Caution, black ice ahead" in English either. We do have our changeable safety signs all over the state. I do consent that language is important. I see Representative Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I spent the week in the Azores. I do not speak Portuguese. After riding around on tours, on the tour bus, I asked my wife to conduct a little game with me if we would have driven the same way the tour bus did. And there were more times when they had the pictogram up that we had no clue what the hell they were saying in the pictogram. For that reason, we declined to rent a car when the tours ended. It was just not safe in my estimation. So I have to believe the reverse is true, that when people come here that speak a language other than what our signs are in, that too is unsafe. Unsafe for them as well as for the motoring public that does understand the language on our signs. So for that reason, I'll be supporting 461.
Representative Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So several points that I would like to make. One, I've said this before, and I think I'll say it again. Ours is an aging state, and we would like, I would think, to want to encourage persons to move here, particularly young people, professionals, people, etc. In the last census, for the first time in many decades, New Hampshire achieved a positive rate of population growth. That's significant and is important because of who's going to take care of us as we age, who's going to do the hard manual labor? Who's going to do the healthcare needs? Who's going to do, there's a whole variety of industries that depend on labor for these people who are coming in, and high-tech companies, of which is one of the foundational successes of the New Hampshire's advantage, quote unquote, because those high-tech companies are hiring people who come from other places to live and work, even if it's temporarily. Many of them often decide to stay. In any event, my personal experience has been that I've driven in multiple countries, and I've felt reasonably safe. In fact, very safe, because most, not all, but most signs are in fact pictograms throughout the world. There are exceptions to that, of course. So I view this bill as discriminatory. I view it as a waste of taxpayer dollars. I view it as an anti-business bill because it will make it harder for companies to recruit the very people who are filling the gap to provide labor, residents who are younger, people who are really invested in their community. Why would we do that? Why would we disarm ourselves, so to speak, by passing a bill that will just make it more and more difficult for people to come here? It makes no sense to me.
Representative Bayou.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My opposition to this bill is based on a conversation I had with my neighbor. He's a retired executive from BAE, and one of the biggest problems they're having, or they've had in the last 10 years, is getting the scientists they need to come in from overseas, or the graduates, the foreign graduates. Even though many of the scientists speak very good English and are fully capable of reading any kind of sign, they have family that may not. They don't feel comfortable here. They understand the pictograms. They understand the signs. They understand how to drive. Most of the things we use are universal, although Europe has standardized it far more than we have. So to me, I agree with Representative Sykes that this would be an anti-business bill, and it would communicate to the world that New Hampshire is closed to any kind of tech business, because a very large number of tech scientists are not Native American, not native English-speaking American people who, so I don't need to repeat the other things that were already said, so I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Hold on. We're going to go around the room first before I do repeats. Representative Gorski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For many people in this room who were here last year, they know the story that I recently found some family down in Poland, and they have done a lot of work with the refugees from Ukraine. But I've gotten to know them, and they've filled in a lot of my family history. My father died very young. He came from Poland. He was picked up by the German army and was forced in a forced labor camp to make food for the Germans. My father came to this country and started a life. And as I was growing up, I asked my mom, how come we don't have a car? How come Dad doesn't drive? Well, he felt uncomfortable driving because he didn't know our language. And he was more concerned with making sure that if he got behind a wheel, that myself, my brother, my mom, my family were safe. My father eventually learned English, and when he did, that's when he went to get his license to drive a car. And he felt very proud to know that now he was behind the wheel protecting his family. So when people say, because I support this bill, I'm a xenophobe, I'm not. I take offense to that. Because my father lived this, I lived this. And many of you see me with this Bavarian jacket. I did this and got this jacket when I did some business in Bavaria as a homage to my father. To have my father with me anytime I'm here in legislation, because he died when I was very young. So my father lived this. And I look back and I appreciate, back then I didn't, because I was like, Dad, I want to go drive around, let's go. Because other families did that. But I learned from my cousin in which he wrote letters stating the reason why. That's why I'm supporting this bill.
Anybody else from the committee? Representative, I haven't heard from Palandon yet. Representative Palandon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My other concern with this is listening to the debate going on, and I'm thinking weekly now, I'm getting a dozen to 20 handwritten letters from people in the ESL classes with their fears that ESL funding is going to go by the wayside. So if we can't teach English, this all seems moot. Because I don't know the details of it. I haven't reached out to these teachers in the ESL program in Nashua, but it's a concern, it's a fear that the funding is going to stop on the training of this. So if we can't teach them how to speak English, then it's going to be harder for them to pass driver's ed as well. That's just my concern on this, and that's just something that just came to my mind on the number of handwritten letters I'm getting. So hopefully it's a valid point.
Representative Guyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the things that I want to pay attention to specifically with this bill is it's who we're giving a New Hampshire driver's license to. It doesn't restrict anything else. So you can drive on an international permit or a tourist permit for 3 to 6 months anywhere in the United States, that varies state to state. When you're talking about giving somebody a state ID, they're expressly intending to stay here. So I think that it's fair at that point to say, yes, you know, you've got 3 to 6 months under your international, learn enough English to get the driver's license, because you're now going to be a resident here, and part of transitioning into a country is learning the language and the culture. And you know, you're not talking about somebody who's coming out here for 2 or 3 weeks. You're talking about somebody who's going to be living here for an extended period of time. So I support the intent of this bill.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? I forget who was first. I should have written it down. I'll go this way. Pataro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for recognizing me again. Briefly going back to the point about this always being in federal rules, and it especially pertains to the commercial trucking industry in a sense. If you're that kind of driver, if you're a commercial driver, it's like imperative that you literally read everything that happens as it's coming at you. It's imperative. It's important for safety. It's important so they can navigate. It's important so the state can enforce its own laws too. This bill is about the DMV's testing materials, and you know, one sense that I have about this is that we don't want to set people up for failure either. So we have a language, and we have our entire infrastructure configured around that language, and it should be in alignment. Thank you.
Anybody else? Representative Miller.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the body again. A few bits of comments that have come up that I would like to speak to directly. With regard to not feeling comfortable driving with the pictographs in a foreign country, the law here would not be that you would simply show up and be given a license. The law as it exists today is that we provide you with the training materials in the language that you understand. If I showed up in a random place and the signs were all different, I too would not want to drive there. But if I intended to drive there, I would take the course, I would review the materials, I would learn what they mean, hopefully in a language that I actually understand, and then be qualified to safely operate on the roads. So yes, some signs may be different from where these people started their driving experience, but the goal here is to give them the opportunity to learn, not to simply say, go at it. I respect your father's decision to not drive while he felt unsafe about it. We have changed our policies in this state to allow people to learn these things in their native language. We don't know if it was available in German, I assume, or Polish. You brought up Bavarian also, I wasn't sure, sorry. I guess from the before times it makes sense, sorry. If it was available in Polish, would he have felt more comfortable? We probably don't know. But again, making it so that residents of New Hampshire are comfortable and able to have that experience and do so safely means meeting our constituents where they are. Finally, to the point of people should just learn English and get their license and be here. I'm not good at foreign languages, so I'm probably not the best example of this, but I don't know anyone who can pick up a foreign language in 2 months and feel fluently comfortable in it. That is a extreme expectation to have, and the law as it exists in New Hampshire is that within 2 months of arrival, if you intend to be a resident here, you will acquire a driver's license. And so the idea here is that they could just learn English and get over it. It's not going to happen that fast. And in the interim period, as I alluded to before, we are going to have a situation where these people cannot work, cannot run errands, cannot participate in the businesses with our businesses or for our businesses. We are shunning them from society by taking this approach. And I strongly urge you to reject removing that accessibility for our residents. Thank you.
Anybody else? Representative Crawford.
So I'm really torn on this bill because I understand everybody would love to be able to speak English. I'm assuming when they come to this country and when they come to this state. And I know in the driver education industry, which I'm a part of, we've tried to make it easier for instructors to be able to communicate with their students. And not all kids coming here legally can speak the language as fluently as we would like. So I know it doesn't affect me and my area because I'm like up in the North Country, and to be honest with you, don't have any. I think in all the years that I've taught driver's ed, like 27 years, I've never had a student that didn't communicate English to me. I didn't have it, but I know that in the southern part of this state, it's a problem, and the instructors in the southern part of the state were asking for this type of instruction to help them communicate with their students. I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to sit here, and I hope somebody else would pipe in, because I get what Chairman Walsh, I respect Chairman Walsh with all the respect in the world, and I understand where he's coming from, but I don't know if I totally agree with eliminating all of the languages that the people who want to stay here and be here, if they need that as a boost to get to that point of understanding English and being able to speak it. I just don't know if we're taking that away. So that's all I have to say.
Anybody else? Actually, I'll ask Representative Land, do you still have the statute handy?
Yes, let me pull that up. Since you're having me speak, I do want to note that when I went to Poland for my friend's wedding, one of the most offensive things you could do there was speak German, because most of the Polish people who speak German did not learn it by choice. Sorry, I know it's an aside and we're trying to stay focused, but here in RSA 3-C:1, it says the official language of the state of New Hampshire shall be English. English is designated as the language of all official public documents and records and of all public proceedings and non-public sessions.
Thank you. Representative Sykes.
Thank you. Notwithstanding that, I would remind everybody that many countries have official languages. But in those same countries, oftentimes the majority of the public speak a different language. And what we don't want to do is use that as a tool to keep people from advancing in their life and integrating into a population and being productive members of society. And this, right now, again, I would reiterate the point that this allows people, it helps people to learn so that they can take a test and gain the driver's privileges that they are required to have if they're going to remain here as residents. So I think we just need to know. My experience, for instance, and we've talked a lot about that, but one of the countries that I worked in for several years, actually, the official language was French. 90% of the population did not speak French. And yet they all actually drove quite safely and had no greater accident rate than we do here in the United States. Because I was curious about that and asked, actually.
Anybody else? Representative Leon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, my friend who was married in Poland grew up in Poland, and she came to the United States as a child. And she learned English very quickly. I think the idea that people can't learn English, I understand it's a difficult language, but I also think it's a bigotry of low expectations to tell people that you're not going to be able to learn English, so we're not going to expect that of you. I think that high expectations are good. And I'm always concerned when people are othered and people suggest that they can't learn things and they're not as smart as native English speakers. That always bothers me because that's really bigoted.
Anybody else? Go ahead. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No one is suggesting that learning English can't be done, or that it's impossible to do, or that anyone who is trying to learn English is dumber or less capable than anyone else. The point made is that doing it in 2 months to a level of fluency that allows you to take a driver's test is simply unreasonable.
Anybody else? Representative Pitaro.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chair. But before I say what I want to say, just re-stress this is about the training materials. But since we're all on the topic of this very fascinating subject, it is in my belief that anybody on the planet learning English does nothing but to boost their opportunities when it comes to improving themselves or their economic opportunities or anything. English is a very, very important language, not just here in New Hampshire or the United States, but globally.
It is, and I reject the notion that just because you need to speak English here, that somehow if you can't, you're going to be shunned from society. My grandparents, my Meme and Pepe, actually came here. They couldn't speak a word of English, and they actually melted into society very easily. So anybody else from the committee, I know we're anything new on the bill itself? Well, okay. Now for the good news. This bill is open for further amendment. And I have an amendment. Because this bill deals with the training and testing materials. And you can thank somebody for emailing me and reminding me that, well, this has nothing to do with translators. So this amendment will deal with translators. I'll give you a few minutes to pass it out and read it, and we can start this all over again. Yep, no, you know what, fair enough. It's been a lengthy debate. We have a fresh amendment to look at. We will take a break. How much time do you think you need? By this clock, which says 11:15, we'll reconvene, or end our break, I should say. I gotta be careful how we say this. But at 11:30, we'll discuss the amendment, take up the amendment, and then continue on with the original bill. So 11:30. Okay, welcome back, folks. I'm gonna resume our executive session on House Bill 461. As I said before, we took a little break. This bill is open for further amendment. The chair will recognize Representative Gorski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to open up Amendment 2025-0471H for consideration.
Okay, so Amendment 0471H has been moved. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Hamlin. Thank you, sir. I'll take over for you. This amendment actually was an unintentional omission from the original bill. Again, with the original bill just spoke or dealt with testing materials, training and testing materials. But in hindsight, looking back at it, when you allowed translators, in-person translators, or using apps or even computer programs, it's actually even worse than the training itself. Now you're just helping somebody get through the test, knowing full well that they have no grasp of the English language. And I know we talked about the pictogram signs that are the common ones for stop and one way, et cetera, but there are so many more things on the roads that require somebody, in my opinion, for complete safety to be able to read, including directional signs. You see it now. You know, people can't read the sign or don't understand the sign. The first thing they do is lock up the brakes. You know, they don't look for a place to pull over. I guess, and all I'm trying to say is our roads, we can all see with our own eyes, are not getting safer nowadays. They're getting a little bit more treacherous. And why we don't do what we can do to at least address one of the reasons for it, I think would be a mistake. So I offer this amendment, and again, it's pretty simple. It just amends RSA 263-6E, paragraph 5. You can read for yourselves. You don't need me to go through it one at a time, to make sure that those things are not allowed in this whole process either. In terms of translators, as I said, with translation apps, computer programs, etc., it still does allow devices to use and aid in people with hearing or seeing the English language or seeing American Sign Language. Those are not affected and shall still be permitted. So that's what the amendment does. I'll open it up to the committee for opinion. Anybody from the committee? Representative Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's my considered opinion that this amendment, particularly the first piece of removing an in-person translator, makes the bill more egregious than its original version. And my question to the committee and to the members as we ponder the incredible significance of what we're doing here today is, when will we stop? Who is next on that list to be having more difficulty to achieve the privilege of driving? I worry about that significantly. I think that this is just, we're going down a road that I don't think is appropriate or sustainable in the long run for the economic and for the economic health, for the strength of our society, for the strength of the vision that is the United States, which is to be open and welcoming to as many people as we can. And I can't support the amendment, nor can I, and even with the amendment, nor could I support the bill.
Representative Geisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at the amendment, I actually favor it for one reason, and that's safety. I was talking with a state trooper on the break, and I asked the question, what does it mean when you pull somebody over that your officer can't communicate with? And the basic answer that I got was more time on the side of the road, which exposes both the civilian and the officer to higher risk of a road strike or anything else, while the officer has to use some kind of a translator, and that it lengthens stops. So again, we're talking about who we give in-state licenses to, not travelers, not tourists, not in-state licenses. And if we're giving in-state licenses to people who can't basically verbally communicate in English, especially at the side of the road, on a routine traffic stop or, forbidden accident, we're creating a barrier that will lengthen the amount of time, again, that there is exposure to traffic, both for our law enforcement officers and for those civilians.
Anybody else? Representative Pataro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Across entire industries and spectrums, there's certifications, examinations, and the DMV proctors the examinations for the license, and there are other aspects that we legislate and oversee and so forth, but we want to make sure that they're able to proctor these exams correctly. This amendment lists several things, and we also want to make sure that none of these things that could be allowed could be used for any nefarious cheating, let's say, on the examination. So I think we need to consider that as well. Thank you.
Anybody else? One final thought. Representative Sykes.
Thank you. Actually, the problem with the last minute amendments is it doesn't give anybody a real opportunity to talk to the professionals who would be responsible for administering the program. And I don't expect that to happen today and wouldn't even ask for it to happen today. But I have to ask myself the question, and I would wish that you would ask yourselves the question, would be, during the actual driving test, that the person has to demonstrate that they are competent to receive the privilege of driving, what role does the translator actually play in making that determination? I don't think that can't be a short answer today, and I don't think we have an answer, and so I worry about that as well.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll take up the amendment first. I usually do a voice vote on that, but we will do a roll call on the amendment. I'll give the clerk a moment to get a new sheet ready.
Yep. Vice Chairman Gorski.
Oh, hold on, let me go. So this is to adopt amendment number 2025-0471H. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you. Vice President. Congratulations. Vice Chairman. Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
The clerk will vote yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foote.
Yes.
Representative Pataro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Guyson.
Yes.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
No.
Representative Newell.
No.
Representative Fox.
No.
Representative Vayu.
No.
Representative Gerard.
No.
Representative Plumonden.
No.
Representative Miller.
No.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
9-7.
So the amendment is adopted 9-7. The motion now on the floor is ought to pass on House Bill 461 as amended. Anybody care to speak on the amended bill before we take a vote?
Send it all.
All right. Yeah, you know what, in summary, I think we can all recognize that part of what we do here is about safety. We all know that we have an issue with impairment. We've been asked to go to roundtables here and there with sometimes even the executive counselors to find and address ways to deal with impairment. We know distraction has been an issue for years. And even us as a committee a few minutes ago recommended not going backwards in time by making distracted driving with cell phones a secondary offense. I didn't make up the language barrier. We all know this is an issue. I heard somebody say going down the road. Well, we've been going down this road for 4 years. You know, language has always probably been an issue in this country, but when it's a limited thing, the odds of something happening are pretty low. The higher the number, the higher the chances of bad things happening, and that's all this bill is trying to address. One step further, I think the practice that's being taken, the practice that's been going on right now, was not, well, it was not done legislatively. It was not done through this committee. It was done through rules, I assume. But based on the statute that we heard, I'm not even sure if it's statutory. So with all those things, I'm hoping you'll support House Bill 461 as amended, and we'll try to take care of another issue going on our roads. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. Motion is ought to pass as amended.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
Yes.
the clerk will vote yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Giason,
Yes.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
No.
Representative Newell,
No.
Representative Fox,
No.
Representative Fayou,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Plamondon,
No.
Representative Miller,
No.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
Okay, 9-7.
Committee's recommendation of ought to pass as amended is adopted 9-7. Regular calendar, it'll go. I'll close the public hearing on House Bill 461. I assume minority report?
Yes.
Okay. We have 5 bills left. Consensus, keep plowing on. Okay. That being said, I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 489, allowing volunteer emergency workers to use rear-facing blue lights on their private vehicles when involved in emergency service. Chair recognizes Representative Pataro for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on House Bill 489.
Motion is inexpedient to legislate. Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Crawford. Care to speak to your motion, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill would allow volunteers to install a blue light to their vehicles when these volunteers are responding. The reason I believe it should be ITL'd is because blue lights are clearly indicative of police officers in our police force. I understand in the past that we did make changes to allow blue lights on emergency vehicles such as ambulances and fire trucks. To the motoring public, there's no ambiguity with those types of vehicles being emergency vehicles. But when we have volunteers using their day-to-day vehicles, and we already allow them to use the red lights, but when we start using the blue lights, I feel that encroaches on the work that our police force does, and it can be very confusing and frankly distracting and disheartening for the motoring public if they're getting out of the way of what they may or may not be believe the right kind of response. So with that, I think it's best to just deny this request.
Well put, Representative Pataro. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Sykes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we did recently, in fact, allow a single red light on the back of fire trucks, and there was a very good blue light on the back of fire trucks, and there was a very good reason for that. And the reason was that it is more easily seen and recognized as an emergency than red lights, which can possibly blend in with tail lights and so on. So I'm going to keep this very brief. If we are going to be concerned about the motoring public and their safety, And we're going to be concerned particularly about volunteer firefighters or emergency responders, and that's who this bill applies to, and their response to emergency scenes when they may get there before the ambulance and before the fire truck because they respond in their personal vehicles. Why would we not now, why would we not now want to support their safety and the safety of the motoring public?
Representative Foot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe during our testimony, we heard from a law enforcement official that the public perception, people will be desensitized to the blue lights. So I believe that also to be true. So I support the ITL.
Yeah, and to that, I believe it was last year, we passed a law that would also prevent Uber and rideshare companies from displaying blue lights as well, for the same reason. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Vayu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I will probably defer to the members of public safety, fire offices, because this is just a rear light, and we're already concerned about the safety on the side of the road. We know that when they're on the side of the highway, that vehicles very often get crashed into from behind by people not paying attention, people mistaking the lights for brake lights instead of public safety officials. If this helps with visibility and helps save lives, I'm going to support it.
Anybody else from the committee? And just another thought too. I mean, the desensitizing of a blue light can occur without them even being on. If there are these blue lights on passenger vehicles all over the state, even just in traffic, not on, people will see them and understand that, well, maybe the next time they see one lit, it doesn't do much. Must be another passenger vehicle. So anyway, I'll be supporting the ITL. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is inexpedient to legislate.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Hill?
Yes.
Representative Foot?
Yes.
Representative Pataro?
Yes.
Representative Leon?
Yes.
Representative Guyson?
Yes.
Representative Hamlin?
Yes.
Representative Sykes?
No.
Representative Newell?
No.
Representative Fox?
No.
Representative Vayu?
No.
Representative Gerard?
No.
Representative Plamondon?
Yes.
Representative Miller?
No.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
Ten to 5.
That's it.
Oh, this is it. I'm sorry, 6. Thank you.
Our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate is adopted 10-6. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 489. We'll continue in order. House Bill 533 up next. I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 533 relative to the use of civilian employees in commercial truck inspections. Chair recognizes Representative Hamlin for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that this bill ought to pass.
Motion's ought to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I saw Representative Guyson first. Care to speak to your motion, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, what this bill is asking is that when a police officer goes in to do an inspection on a commercial operation, the police officer can do, look at the paperwork, look at the operation, but as far as doing any type of inspection on a vehicle to make sure that the vehicles are being inspected properly, it takes a trained person. And for this reason, to be able to take a civilian in to do that type of an operation or inspection, I believe this is a good bill.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Okay, is everybody getting tired? Um, Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she is ready. The motion is ought to pass on 533.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Giason,
Yes.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
No.
Representative Newell,
No.
Representative Fox,
No.
Representative Vayu,
No.
Representative Gerard,
No.
Representative Plamondon,
No.
Representative Miller,
No.
and Chairman Walsh.
No.
Ooh. Okay. Uh, 8-8.
What have I done? The motion of ought to pass.
did the right thing.
I always do, Representative Sykes. Our motion of ought to pass fails 8-8. Is there a motion? Oh, you know the two that we have available to us. Yeah, why not? Chair recognizes Representative Sykes.
Yeah, I make a motion to retain.
Retains the motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Giason. Care to speak to your motion? Or, nah, up to you.
No, I will ever so briefly would suggest that I think this is another one of those questions that deserves it has some good points. The notes in front of me have pros and cons. It isn't, and so maybe we need to look at that and have it use that opportunity to see if we can refine it if we can. Hence, retain.
Fair enough. Anybody else from the committee? Representative Giason.
Yeah, I really wanted this to pass, but if it's not going to pass, then we should retain it. The DOT, specifically asked us to look at this so that they could have more resources for inspections. And because it's a civilian contractor working for the DOT, I don't think that they would be less qualified than the system that we have in place right now. So it becomes an issue of manpower. So I'd rather retain it and clean the language up than kill it.
Fair enough. And I'll be honest, that's why I did not vote for the ought to pass. It's just been my personal experience with the civilians that have been inspecting these stations that I think we need to look at the whole picture. So retain, fair enough. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Motion is to retain.
Vice Chairman Gorski,
Yes.
clerk votes yes. Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Foot,
Yes.
Representative Pataro,
Yes.
Representative Leon,
Yes.
Representative Giason,
Yes.
Representative Hamlin,
Yes.
Representative Sykes,
Yes.
Representative Newell,
Yes.
Representative Fox,
Yes.
Representative Vayu,
Yes.
Representative Gerard,
Yes.
Representative Plamondon,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
and Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16-0.
Our recommendation to retain and to hold on to it is adopted 16-0. I'll close the executive session on House Bill 533. Next up, give us a moment, House Bill 594. You go ahead, Representative Miller.
Not specific to this debate, but with 414 earlier where I'm sorry, never mind. I misread my notes. Sorry.
Okay. All right, I'll open up the executive session on House Bill 594 relative to the definition of away. Chair recognizes Representative Hill for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move OTP ought to pass on House Bill 594. Oh, I'm sorry, ITL. Looking at the wrong one and speaking out loud. Thank you. ITL on House Bill 594.
Understandable. We've had a good morning here. Motion is inexpedient to legislate. Is there a second?
That's it.
Second.
Representative Crawford. I heard her first. Did you care to speak your motion? Would you defer?
I've done such a good job this morning. I think I will defer to Representative Leon.
Okay, understandable. Chair recognizes Representative Leon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Hill. This bill was introduced in order to repeal a section of my bill, Right to Mow, which we had passed last year, which removed the prohibitions on people doing things like riding lawnmowers when they had their license suspended for doing a very bad thing like getting a DUI. This section of it was probably the most difficult part of the language that I wrote, but a lot of people don't know where the actual edge of their property ends legally, and a lot of people think that their property goes up to their edge of their grass. Without having a definition of way that basically says if you mow between the legal edge of your property and the edge of the grass, that's acceptable. Otherwise, we're putting people at risk of spending 7 nights in jail for not knowing the edge of their property or the property that they're mowing as a landscaper. I had initially come in to speak on the bill. The prime sponsor didn't come to the hearing. I spoke asking for an ITL on this bill. However, I did understand that there were some concerns from some people within the agencies, within the Department of Justice. I asked and reached out. I wanted to know what the specific concerns were so that instead of killing the bill, we could correct their concerns with the language. I never got anything concrete from them, so I think that we should ITL the bill, but I'd like to keep the offer open that if we have any language to make this more clear, I will put in the bill next year or the year after that in order to make sure that this does what I intend and it doesn't have any unintended consequences of the bill that's already in law. So with that, I'd ask everybody to vote ITL on this bill.
Thank you, Representative. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is inexpedient to legislate.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foot.
Yes.
Representative Pataro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Giason.
Yes.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Newell.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu.
Yes.
Representative Gerard.
Yes.
Representative Plamondon.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yep.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16-0.
Our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate is adopted 16-0. Consent, any objection to consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 594. Getting down to the wire. We'll take up 632 in a moment. We're going to open up the executive session on House Bill 632, permitting healthcare providers affiliated with the Veterans Administration to certify medical accommodations on behalf of veterans residing in New Hampshire. Chair recognizes Representative Giason for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to pass on House Bill 632.
Motion's ought to pass, seconded by Representative Miller. Care to speak to your motion, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, again, after speaking with the director of the DMV, the chief medical officer of the VA hospital, and the adjutant general of the state of New Hampshire, it was determined that it was easier and faster to move legislation to fill a loophole that was accidentally put in by the JLCAR last year that disqualified out-of-state healthcare providers for writing for medical exceptions. So this bill would allow the VA to do that, whereas many VA healthcare providers are federally contracted here and they're not licensed by this state, but licensed in other states in the United States to practice medicine in the United States, but they're here contractually. So all this does is patch that hole very quickly so that we don't end up in an ADA lawsuit.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the committee? Seeing none. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is ought to pass.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foote.
Yes.
Representative Pataro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Giason.
Yes.
Representative Hamlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Newell.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Vayu.
Yes.
Representative Gerard.
Yes.
Representative Plamondon.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yep.
Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16 to 0.
Our recommendation of ought to pass is adopted 16-0. I heard consent, no objections. Seeing none, consent it is. I'll close the hearing on 6:32. And we have one left, House Bill 758. Give us a moment, please. All right, folks, I'm going to open up the executive session on House Bill 758, establishing a committee to study airport operation hours. Chair recognizes Representative Pataro. You're going to be busy this afternoon, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on House Bill 758.
You scared me for a minute. Is there a second? Motion is an expedient to legislate.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Miller. Care to speak to your motion, sir?
Yes, briefly, thank you. This bill would establish a committee legislatively. After some discussions and after the hearing, the committee we believe that this would be better left to the industry to sort out amongst themselves. They're on the ground, or in this case, they're in the air, or what have you. But they're the ones there who know the situation best, and we should leave it up to them and the market to sort out whatever issues they have.
Fair enough. Anybody else from the committee? Looks like a bunch of people didn't want to sit on the committee to study airport operation hours. That's very wise. Without seeing any further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll when she's ready. The motion is inexpedient to legislate.
Vice Chairman Gorski.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Hill.
Yes.
Representative Foot.
Yes.
Representative Pataro.
Yes.
Representative Leon.
Yes.
Representative Giason.
Yes.
Representative Hemlin.
Yes.
Representative Sykes.
Yes.
Representative Newell.
Yes.
Representative Fox.
Yes.
Representative Bayou.
Yes.
Representative Gerard.
Yes.
Representative Plumbundon.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yes.
And Chairman Walsh.
Yes.
16-0.
Our recommendation of inexpedient to legislate is adopted 16-0. Consent. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, I'll close the executive session on House Bill 758. And congratulations, everybody. That is the last House bill for this year. And we're actually done prior to the deadline for second committee bills. So what that does is basically give us a month off from committee work. Because we may see Senate bills prior to the crossover. It doesn't happen often, but it can. But it's usually very few, so I see no need to call us back until after crossover. I think we're all set on people to defend the committee reports on Thursday. As far as reports for today, I've got 2 to do myself. I ask everybody to get them. I need them today, so I don't know if you're going to take a lunch break and come back. That's fine. That's probably what I'll do. But I do need my reports by the time you leave. If you need hard copies, we have them in the office. Otherwise, the electronic template will work. With anything else for the good of the cause.
I have copies too.
Representative Crawford has copies too. Nothing else? Well, thank you again. That'll conclude our business for the day. See you Thursday.